Funko City is your local source for Funko Pop and anime collectibles. Stop by at their beautiful new home at 26802 US Highway 33, Rockbridge, Ohio, just north of Logan. And you will also find Hocking Hills souvenirs in stock. New items are arriving daily, so stop by often. We'll see you at Funko City. Deputies Auto Repair at 110 North Plains Road in the Plains is ready to serve you with all of your automotive repair needs. Deputies Auto Repair does diagnostic testing, engine swaps, oil changes, alignments, brakes, and tire repairs. And Deputies Auto Repair is now offering additional new services, including 24/7 roadside assistance. They will be there if you need a tow, a jump start, tire repair, or even if you lock your keys in your car. Just call 740-677-0007 and select option 5. They will also fill your tractor tires. Just call for details. Deputies Auto Repair in the Plains. During 1922 and 1923, the U.S. Navy built its first rigid airship, the Shenandoah. Based on a German design, the Shenandoah was enormous, nearly 690 feet long and weighing 36 tons. Equipped with 5 300-horsepower Packard engines, she had a range of 5,000 miles at a maximum speed of 60 knots. Her lift came from 2.1 million cubic feet of helium, unlike the German airships that used hydrogen. Her first flight occurred on September 4, 1923, the first of 56 flights that would span a 2-year period. On September 2, 1925, the Shenandoah was scheduled to leave her home base at Lakehurst, New Jersey on a goodwill tour en route to an air show appearance in St. Louis, Missouri. After checking weather forecasts for the intended route and finding a forecast of thunderstorms, Commander Zachary Lansdowne, an Ohio native from Greenville, Ohio, and the Navy's most experienced airship captain, recommended to his superiors that they wait out the weather. Unfortunately, he was overruled and the Shenandoah left as scheduled. In the early hours of September 3rd, the Shenandoah was over southeastern Ohio, fighting turbulence and high winds from storms. By most reports, the giant airship was being tossed around almost totally out of control, caught in updrafts, and at one point almost standing vertically on her tail. With the ship's structure being wrenched and twisted by the force of the storm, the crew ultimately lost control of the ship, resulting in the hull of the Shenandoah breaking apart into 2 sections, and her control gondola, cabled into position under her nose, being torn away. The control gondola, with 13 souls on board, impacted the ground on farmland in Noble County, Ohio, just north of Caldwell on a farm owned by the Gamery family. All 13, including Commander Zachary Lansdowne on board that gondola, died. That site is now marked as Site Number 1. Approaching crash site number 2, where the main structure of the Shenandoah came to rest. This would be the site that the rear 2/3 of the ship crashed to the earth right up against this hillside here to our left. And the yellow brick that you can see out through the field represents the alignment of that rear 2/3 section. With the remaining 30 crew members still aboard the 2 broken sections of the Shenandoah's hull, the rear 2/3 of the airship drifted to the southwest, the crew carefully bleeding off the helium, landed that section at a position just west of present-day Interstate 77. That site now marked as Site Number 2. All crew members aboard the rear 2/3 of the Shenandoah survived. We're about a half a mile or so as the crow flies from the initial breakup point of the Shenandoah that morning in a thunderstorm. Site 1 was where the ship broke in two, and the command gondola that was suspended beneath the ship that you can see here broke away at Site Number 1. Where we're at, and this is probably the most remarkable site as far as the visual aspect of it, this is where the rear 2/3 of the Shenandoah ended up. And it's outlined, as you're seeing on the video, by these yellow concrete blocks. It gives you an idea of the size of the Shenandoah. As the rear of the airship was touching down about a half a mile from the breakup point, the nose section was continuing to drift for several miles to the southwest, at times climbing back to an altitude of 1,500 to 2,000 feet. The crew was carefully venting off the helium and throwing down lines in hopes of dragging something on the ground. Finally, farmer Ernest Nichols was able to grab one of those lines and secure it around a tree, bringing the nose section to the ground. Unfortunately, one of the crew members in the nose section died when he was reportedly thrown from a rope while he was trying to get down to the ground to secure that line.
Deputies Auto Repair at 110 North Plains Road in the Plains is ready to serve you with all of your automotive repair needs. Deputies Auto Repair does diagnostic testing, engine swaps, oil changes, alignments, brakes, and tire repairs. And Deputies Auto Repair is now offering additional new services, including 24/7 roadside assistance. They will be there if you need a tow, a jump start, tire repair, or even if you lock your keys in your car. Just call 740-677-0007 and select option 5. They will also fill your tractor tires. Just call for details. Deputies Auto Repair in the Plains. Funko City is your local source for Funko Pop and anime collectibles. Stop by at their beautiful new home at 26802 US Highway 33, Rockbridge, Ohio, just north of Logan. And you will also find Hocking Hills souvenirs in stock. New items are arriving daily, so stop by often. We'll see you at Funko City. Ohio is known as the birthplace of aviation, of course referring to the efforts of the Wright brothers in Dayton, Ohio, working to give wings to mankind. Flying in southeastern Ohio has a long history as well. The area was once dotted with small grass airfields, both private and public, that brought many into aviation over the years. On this Tales of Southeastern Ohio feature, we will look into some of those airport locations, some that still exist and others now long gone. And we'll learn more about the pilots who got their wings flying from those airstrips and over the hills of southeastern Ohio.
Somebody cuts a lot of grass.
Yeah.
Fairfield traffic 3 Mike Bravo departing 28, be northbound Fairfield.
Fairfield County, Cessna 860 climbing crosswind 28, Fairfield's going to depart straight off the downwind.
Okay, we are making a pass down over what at one time was the Diamond Airport. At one time the only lighted airstrip, I am told, between Columbus and Parkersburg. Just to the right there of the Diamond Airport was the old Diamond brick plant. And we are now flying directly over the Diamond Airport, a little over 2,000 feet.
While working on this video feature, we learned that the Diamond Airport was actually preceded by another small grass airstrip located about 2 miles to the west-southwest of the location that would later become the Diamond Airport. In the early 1950s, Carl Nub Loomis was working in the oil fields of Pennsylvania, driving back and forth from southeastern Ohio to be home on the weekends. Tiring of the drive, he decided to learn to fly, taking flight instruction from Charlie Newland at the Perry County Airport in New Lexington, Ohio, an airport we will visit later. After becoming a licensed pilot, he decided to build a landing strip on his property near his home. This short strip became known as his Hilltop Airport. Over time, as others joined the flying community at Hilltop Airport, it became clear that a new, longer field was needed. Working out a lease deal for property along Route 33 between Nelsonville and Haydenville from Ed Keels of the Diamond, the group soon had a new home for their airplanes, and the Diamond Airport was born. Flying over southeastern Ohio near Union Furnace, you would not believe that at one time a short airstrip was once located down there on one of the hilltops below us. In fact, it once stood here and was known, at least unofficially, as the Hilltop Airport. Let's go down and take a closer look.
So you say the hangars were right
The
here?
hangars here, this airstrip would have been from right here, right straight out, going south.
My.
Yeah.
And I think she had 800 feet. That's not an awfully short.
Well, the plus that you had at the end of the runway, there was a big strip pit. So you go out, if you didn't have enough airspeed then to fly,
You drop.
it would drop. And the plane that Ralph Farrar had, it would go airborne at 35 miles an hour.
Okay.
It would lift off. And he would go out and drop off of that end, put, 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 put. But
Then you see him coming back up.
Coming right back up.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
My name is Sue Vaughn. I was born in Nelsonville and have family that has been in Nelsonville most of our lives. And I'm here to share some memories that we all have about the old airport. Yeah, my dad, he called himself Dean Vaughn. His name was Harold Dean Vaughn, but he didn't like to go by Harold. He was H. Dean Vaughn. My mom, Doris Vaughn, they eventually divorced. Her maiden name was Miller. Her mom and dad was Evelyn and Elsa Miller. My dad, when I was young, he had an airplane here at the Diamond Airport. I was probably, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years old. And I remember going up in the airplane. My best memory was looking out the window and seeing the fields and seeing the woods, the Hocking River. It just amazed me that you could get up that high and look down, see the cornfields and all. Dad was a pilot. He had a plane. I think he probably shared it with somebody. My grandfather, Charlie Vaughn, he was also a pilot. And I'm not sure, they may have shared maybe those two that shared the plane. Mom was a pilot too. She said she flew it. My mom's dad and then my dad's dad, both of them were miners. They worked in the coal mines down here. My grandpa, Charlie Vaughn, eventually started what's now Hocking Valley Concrete. It's gone by a few different names through the years. It's been changed, but my cousins now own that. So it's been passed down in the family after generations. But that's how my grandpa started out, as a coal miner, and then started mining for gravel and sand. He mined the hill right above where the hospital, Mount St. Mary, used to be. That hill back there, he mined. He ended up creating the lake, and then once he was finished mining that, turned it into housing development. So I feel a little bit of pride that, you know, my grandfather contributed in that way to the community. I was fortunate that my dad had some photographs taken back then, and through the years he and Mom didn't talk much about their plane or the airport, but before he passed on Father's Day 2 years ago, 2021. Before he passed, he had given his photographs to my brother-in-law, Jim Pouchon, which I have to give him credit for because he transferred all those photographs onto a CD. When he did that, he gave each one of us a CD after Dad passed, and that's when we found the pictures of the airport, the airplanes. I've got a couple pictures with Dad and Mom in it, and I shared those on the new Nelsonville Tribune on Facebook. And you know, my intention in sharing was to see if anybody else remembered about the airport, and hopefully some memories could come out. You know, I wanted to remember my dad that way, if there's any way I could. And it really surprised me how people came out of the woodwork to share their memories of you know, the different activities that they'd have here. Gosh, I can't remember the names, but one man said that when he was little, he remembered Charlie Vaughn giving him a ride in the airplane. Well, that was my grandpa, you know. And to know he's got a good memory of my grandpa was just, did my heart a world of good. Charlie was a really good man. They did a lot for the community, but they didn't want recognition for it. So this is kind of, I guess, going against what they wanted in a way, because they didn't want recognition. But now that they're passed, it's like I feel like they deserve some recognition in the community, as well as the other people that were connected with the airport. From what I've learned, this was a really important part of the community. A lot of people came together because of the airport. A lot of good memories were associated with it, and why not preserve some of those memories?
Well, I'm Shirley Slater, and I really learned to fly at the Diamond Airport. But it goes farther back to my father, who started to fly in 1941 at the old Athens Airport. And I'm not sure of the dates, but I think he must have gone in the service. Then in 1946, he came back, went back hanging out at the airport again, got his license, So that was 1946. Then there's a blank period in there from where I think we moved once because of his job. He had several different jobs, busy and all that. And so then he must have started first. I think he was tracking down the fellows he knew from the Athens airport. And of course, things had started to change there. But so he's going up to the Diamond Airport, you know. And so he's hanging out up there, and that's when he saw the air coupe was for sale. Yes, but he bought the air coupe, and he actually bought that in 1967. And then right away, he asked me if I'd like to. I said, sure, I'll try anything, you know. And I was really, you know, interested. And so I started flying. Now, my dad had a private pilot license, but of course he had to be checked out in that airplane. And so once he got checked out in that airplane, I could go up with him. And I did not realize this till I went back in my logbook, that some of the men at the airport taught me to fly. My logbook shows you everything I learned, all the steps, you know, all that. But they're not signed. And I realized later, the people there could not, they weren't flight instructors. They could record, and they're writing in there. So when it was time for me to solo, they had to bring in a flight instructor, and they brought Whit Bonavent. And so I have several sessions with him, checking me out, and approved me for solo flight. And so from then, boy, Dad and I were on good, you know, we could go out together. He could fly, I could fly. Even later, after I got my license, I thought, we kept going back to the Diamond, even after we got another airplane. And, but I actually learned, I told you I could go right up there today and do a short field like takeoff and land. You know, anybody who learns to fly there can do that.
Well, I'm Stacy DeCaminata with Stacy Slater, so I'm Shirley's daughter. I remember we lived in Logan, and I had several friends on our block, mainly boys, because we did a lot of football, basketball, and all that. But in particular, some of us would go with her when she would go to the Diamond Airport. One friend, which was a cousin to a family of the boys, she would go a lot. We would go, and Mom just would get some time in, and we would sit in the back, or sometimes we'd take turns riding in the front. I probably liked the low wing plane the best because it was so cool to push the windows down, get in, pull them back up. And I remember, I'm not sure all the places we went when we'd leave Diamond. We didn't go that far when you took the kids and stuff. So it was all good. She was so good about, you know, letting the kids go and taking people. And
I actually flew for 6 years and 6 months because I flew from 67 to 73. And that was at the point when I had to make a decision about whether to finish my degree at Ohio State because my time was about up. And this whole thing, and Dad said, I'm ready to go to Florida. I mean, it was just kind of like, and that's where I've got in my logbook is 67 to 73.
But there is East State Street, there is Lowe's and Walmart and Kroger's and the mall beyond that. And that is where the old Ohio University Airport once stood. Right there.
Taking flight under magic wings that lifts you to the sky, to see your world in a brand new way. Every time you fly, the beauty of the world below, all painted by a master's hand. How colors change, they ebb and flow across the outstretched land. The gift of flight does something to your soul. To view the earth from up above, its beauty to behold. Seasons change, they come and go. The changing colors of life, seen from above, means so much more, thanks to the gift of light. Taking flight under magic wings that lifts you to the sky. See your world in a brand new way. Every time you fly, it's always new. Every time you fly.
I'm Harold Cosper. I live here in Logan. At a very early age, I was interested in flying, and came to Logan in 1960. And shortly after I came here, must have been about 5 years or so, I discovered there's a little airfield just down below Logan. And I wanted to learn to fly. So I started hanging out at this airport to find out that we had a person there that could give lessons. And I took lessons and was around the airport for the next 3 years before I finally got my fill of flying in an area where there wasn't no place to really land on a good field. As far as landing at the Diamond, a lot of people were afraid to land at the Diamond. I knew several people around that I got acquainted with later that didn't want to come to the Diamond because it was seemed to be a little hard to get in. But as I was learning to fly, my instructor taught me how to do a cross control on the plane, and you could just come over those hills and do that, and you could have a mile of field left. You didn't need any room to get in if it was going to be hard to get in. Otherwise, it wasn't bad to get in at all. The worst thing about it was the water would get over the airport at least one time every year, and when the rains would come along and flood us, and we'd have to jack our planes up and set them on blocks to keep them out of the water, and that was one of the drawbacks. The Owens Field, I knew about the Owens Field because it so happened that I was an oil field contractor and did a lot of work for John Owens, which he was the person who worked for Logan Clay. He was a engineer, I think, in the Seabees during the war, and one of the things he did was put in airstrips. And so he went up there and put in a small airstrip. The downside of it was they was very small gravels, about the size of I'd say an apple seed, and they was a little bit hard on your prop. And I've landed there several times, and sometimes keep my plane there for a while, but it wasn't my favorite place.
This old grass airstrip south of Logan, just off of Sauerkraut Road, that Mr. Cosper and others once flew from, like the Diamond Airport between Nelsonville and Haydenville, have both reverted back to farm use, with only farm equipment and tractor tires rolling across the fields and not aircraft tires. However, there is one grass airfield still very much alive and well in southeastern Ohio. Let's land below at the Hideaway Hills Airfield for a visit to their annual fly-in and see what life on a grass airport is really like.
Hi, I'm Lynette Kilbarger, and we are here at Hideaway Hills, which is a private resort community in Hocking County. And we have a grass airfield that is in length at 2,300 feet and 100 feet wide. This has been here since 1963. We started an airport committee about 5 years ago. There was some talk of getting rid of the airfield, and we decided to go to bat for it and try to keep it. So here we are 5 years later. This is our 5th annual fly-in, and it's more and more successful every year. The first year we had 5 airplanes. This year we've already got about 8 airplanes, and it's not even 11 o'clock in the morning, so we're really excited. We do this every year, and we have it on the same date. It's right around the weekend of 9/11, and we do a memorial service at noon for 9/11. We have the Hocking County Honor Guard come. They do a 21-gun salute. We have somebody play taps, and we have somebody sing the national anthem. Then it's a whole day event. So the airplanes come in from 9 to 3. After they leave, then we do remote control aircraft from about 3 to a couple of hours. We do a candy drop, toy drop. It's a lot of fun. And then we have some live entertainment at the end. We also welcome the pilots to camp out if they want to. We do have some facilities that they can use. So it's a great day, and we welcome you anytime. That's kind of a minor side note, but today we're going to do the 9/11 service, and then one of our community members.
My name is Scott Thompson. This is my Cessna. It's a 1954 Cessna 180. It's a lot of fun to fly. It's a pretty good short field plane, and it actually will move with some speed, so it's good for traveling as well. This particular one was wrecked in the mid-'80s, and it sat for a lot of years, so a guy in Texas put it back together, and I'm enjoying the labors of his hard work. I wish I could take credit for the way it looks. Like I said, someone else did all the work on it.
Hi, I'm Fred Hawk, and I'm a commercial pilot and flight instructor, and I'm half owner in this aircraft, which is a 1943 Aeronca L3B, proudly made in Middletown, Ohio by a company that is still in existence and still in the aviation business today. They're known as Magellan Aerospace, and they make advanced products for military and civilian use. If you've flown on an airliner any time in the last 30 or 40 years, you've flown with Aeronca. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Carol Carpenter Apaki, and she is the only child and the daughter of Bazooka Charlie. Bazooka Charlie was Charlie Carpenter, and he came out of the Army as a lieutenant colonel, but his claim to fame as the Mad Major, as he was prone to be called, during World War II, in the thick of the battle, he was in Europe and he was flying Piper L4s. And on those L4s, he got a little bit, shall we say, anticipatory. He was calling artillery strikes, and he was wanting to end the war as fast as possible to get back home. And he came up with the idea that, well, I call in these artillery strikes, and sometimes they're already involved, and they have fire support missions that they have to do now before they can get to mine, but my targets are moving. If I just had a way to attack them, I could do my part to, end this war quickly. We're going to go up today. This is going to be the first flight for Carol in a small aircraft of any kind, and it's going to be in an airplane, one of the types that her father flew while training here in the United States. So this particular L3B, as I said earlier, was a 1943 Aeronca L3B. There's nomenclature on the other side of the nose, which we'll go over and take a look at real quick. But I just want to say this aircraft was in the service of the United States Army Air Forces until 45 or 46, then it came out. It was used as a training airplane, as far as we can tell, in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, out west, in the Army Artillery School. Some of them did get deployed overseas for combat, not as many as the L4. That's why Carol's dad was flying an L4 in Europe, the European theater. But this particular airplane then came, and you notice I changed hats. I was wearing the Army hat before. Now I'm wearing the Air Force Auxiliary hat, which is the United States Air Force Auxiliary. It's also known as the Civil Air Patrol, CAP, CAP. And this airplane went from the military into CAP, Civil Air Patrol, after the end of the war. It was in CAP for, I believe, 2 or 3 years, and then it was drummed out of service of the Civil Air Patrol and went to the civilian market. And somebody's taking good care of it, and now we're, as they say, you never really own history or equipment from history. You're just, conservator of it. So we're trying to keep it, conserved for the next generation, the generations that follow after that. They were actually known as U.S. Army Air Forces with an S on there. But this is the L3B. It was flown by Army Artillery. It was also flown by members of the U.S. Army Air Forces as a, they call it a hack. It would do all whatever missions they needed it to do. The engine is an air-cooled 4-cylinder, horizontally opposed Continental of 65 horsepower during the Second World War. This one, however, has been upgraded to a 75. Just 10 more horses make a lot of difference. And the propeller originally was wood. Now we have a high-efficiency metal prop. The aircraft does not have an engine-driven electrical system. There is no starter, so we do have to hand prop this.
In days gone by, barnstormers and stunt flyers would always draw a crowd to small airports across the country. That is still true today in southeastern Ohio, as we found out at the Benton County Airport's 2023 Air Show that has drawn crowds now for over 50 years.
Welcome everybody to Benton County's Air Show today. We've been putting on air shows for over 50 plus years. The first air show started in 1970 when the airport opened. Governor James Rhodes at the time wanted an airport in almost every county of Ohio. So we were very fortunate to have an airport here at Benton County. I just got out of the Air Force myself, so I come over here and started flying at Benton County. But concerning the air show today, we have a number of acts that'll be slated for the air show. And anyway, we hope you enjoy it. And there'll be some skydivers and lots of aerobatic aircraft here. People come in from all over the area as far as crowds here. So we appreciate that. And all the money goes to literally keep our airport open here at Benton County.
Our famous Screaming Chickens, the Screaming Chickens jump team. They're going to be climbing on board the airplane momentarily. Then we have our jump pilot. You know him, he's been here forever. Flight instructor, chief flight instructor, Brent Gary Sauer, flying the jumper today. Jumpers, Ted Lee, Marietta.
Didn't like my car.
We got Bob Kirk, and we got Scott Adams, most of them from Wellston. And combined, they probably got 8,000 jumps, maybe a little more. So this isn't your grandfather's tailorcraft. This has got I'd say about close to 200 horse engine in it. And he clipped about 3 feet off the wings. The original tailorcraft had a wingspan about 46 feet. This has nothing near that. This airplane is designed for wild aerobatics, quick roll rate, good climb, and its thrust to weight ratio is pretty good. We're going to go ahead and let him go out there and hang smoke on. Nick Coleman. And here we go. Up he goes. Where he stops, nobody knows except Nick, and he pushes it over the top, straight down to the other side, and what we call a humpty. How about that? He's just hanging it there for you. Get a good shot. Take a look at that.
Hello, my name is Harry Sowers. I was born and raised here in Vinton County. Little history about me when I started flying. My first airplane ride was down at Wellston, Ohio at a fairground in 1958. A guy had what we call a little tail dragger. Anyway, it was $3 to take a little ride around over the Wellston Fair. And at that point, I never saw an airplane up close. And that was my first airplane ride. So it's kind of like one of those things that said, gotta have it, gotta do it. So I went into the Air Force in 1966. I did volunteer, I was not drafted. I went in at 17. I was in the conventional nuclear weapons field, so I got to be around a lot of jet aircraft. I served a tour of duty in Thailand in 1967 when the war was starting to really speed up. We had F-105 Thunder Chiefs there. So anyway, it's amazing to work around all the aircraft and things. Then went temporary duty during the Pueblo crisis to Kadena Air Base, Okinawa. Got out in 1970. And I got my private license while I was in the Air Force. From there on, I went on to get an instructor rating, an instrument rating, and a commercial rating, pilot rating to fly people locally within 25 nautical miles of any airport. So we do now, at the current time, do Hocking Hills Scenic Air Tours. We've been doing that for about, I think, 10 years at least plus. We fly people all over the county, Hocking County and Vinton County. So it's an enjoyable thing. And the leaves are changing colors now just about peak time, so we ought to be pretty busy here. So I am also a flight instructor. I've taught over 43 pilots to get their license out of here. 4 ladies, by the way. And then out of 4 guys, 3 guys went into the more training after me and got into the airlines flying actually the big, large jets. One guy went into the Air Force flying KC-135 tankers and started out in C-130 Hercules, so very proud of him. So we've had a neat time of flying down through life. We have had 4 emergencies, and as an instructor, I tell all my pilots, I said, you don't have to crash an airplanes. Keep focused, keep calm, and land the airplane. So anyway, that's what I did myself. So anyway, things can happen in an airplane once in a while. They are made by man, so they're not totally perfect. But anyway, all my students have done very well over the years and went on to do other things. So I'm very, very proud of them. I have one student right now, and he has an RC following, Nate Saylor. But anyway, he's probably be my last student. So I'm kind of retiring from the flight instruction, but still do the air tours for about 1 more year.
Hi, I'm Fred Hawk, and I live in Logan, Ohio. I'm a flight instructor and a commercial pilot, and I fly a lot of different airplanes. I eat, sleep, breathe aviation, love it. Love to share it with anybody that has even a passive interest, and I always try to tell people at some point when I'm being interviewed that we really do need more pilots and we need more maintainers. There are a lot of employment opportunities that are going to be opening up in the very near, well, they're open now, and in the near future it's going to be probably even better for employment outlook. There are plenty of educational opportunities that can be had at Ohio universities. The Ohio State University and Ohio University down in Athens have very good flight schools, as do most of the other 14, I guess the total 14 state institutions that we have here in Ohio. Ohio is a very forward-thinking state and very supportive of aviation. As you might guess, when you think about it, it's go home with the Wright brothers. And they are from Dayton, Ohio, of course, and most people know their history. And I like to refer to Dayton, Ohio as the cradle of civilization as we know and appreciate it. With that said, today we find ourselves at Perry County Airport near the beautiful city of New Lexington, Ohio. The identifier for this airport is I-86. So we have a name for each letter because a lot of letters sound the same. We use a language called the International Phonetic Alphabet, and I is India. So this is actually known as India 86 or India 86. And this is the airport where I first started to learn to fly way back in 1970. And it's just a great little airport. When I came here and looked at this airport to consider training here, I was 15 years old. 7 guys from our class at high school, by the time we graduated, 7 of us had at least soloed, and some of us had advanced licenses. So aviation was a really big thing. We had guys go from, the Air Force, the Army. We had an Air Force F-16 instructor in our class. We had a United Airlines senior captain on the 787 Dreamliner come out of our class. We had another individual that went in the U.S. Army and then went on to come back to Ohio and was in the Ohio Department of Aviation. And then he was noticed by the local Flight Standards District Office, otherwise known as the FISGO, in Columbus, Ohio, and then he went to work for the FAA. And actually, when they really showed up, they really said, and they really meant, I'm from the FAA and I'm here to help. So that's a shout out to my buddy Mark that worked so hard for the FAA and made it just very, very easy for pilots to work with on special projects that they were doing on different aircraft. But coming back to this airport, the fences that you'll see here were not here back at the time. They were added for 2 reasons, and they were added after 9/11 with the grants from the federal government. They're mainly to restrict the access to the flight line, the runway, but also in rural areas such as this, it's very important to keep the wildlife from getting onto the runway, such as the deer, anything else we got out there. This is the Ohio Aeronautical Chart. This is one of my older ones. It lists all the airports here. To orient you, the map is oriented to the north. In the center is Columbus, Ohio, the capital. This is Lancaster. And then where I live is Logan, Ohio here. And on down we have Nelsonville and Athens. And then coming over to here, this is where we are right now. This is Perry County Airport. India 86. Now several things are unique about this airport. One, they used to have a runway that ran here more like north-south. And then it was grass. And they had lighter airplanes back then after the war, Second World War. And then later they went on and got one of those federal grants with the state and made a hard surface runway that was east-west. But there's something unique about this east-west runway when they put it over here, and we'll try to get you a shot of that. But this is out of the Ohio Airport Facility Directory. And this is the only airport that I'm aware of in the entire United States. It may be one of 2. I've been told there's rumored to be another one. But this is the only airport that if you can just see this faint line running right through here, you're thinking, wow, I see it running towards the runway, but it doesn't seem to intersect with it. Well, and it doesn't. That's actually a railroad track going into a railroad tunnel located under an active airport runway, and it's an active railroad track through a tunnel underneath the runway here at Perry County, India 86. Now the neat thing about this runway, in addition to having a tunnel under it, is that both ends of the runway, and 08 and 26 are the same runway. It's just depending on which direction you're using for takeoff and landings. But I like this runway because it has a little feature that I don't know if it came by accident or if I actually thought about it. But there's a little bit of a dip in the middle, which makes it like a bowl, but a very shallow bowl. But still, when you're taking off and you're doing your initial power on the takeoff roll, it's kind of nice to be going downhill. And with this runway and that design or happy accident feature, you're always going downhill when you first start your runway takeoff on either end of that runway. But then after you go into the other part of the other half of the runway that's kind of sloped up, you have a natural braking effect there too. So happy accident or, a design feature, I don't know. I'm just happy that's the way it is. I love this airport. And for those of you doubting Thomas's, non-believers about the dip, behold, there's the dip in all its glory. I promised you a dip, I'll give you a dip. Well, actually I didn't. The planners of the airport and geography gave you the dip. By the way, those two counties that didn't get a paved runway, can you guess where they are? One of them's Hocking County, my home county. But we are blessed with, we've had several grass strips in Hocking County, and today we still have one that's fairly active, and it's at the development community of Hideaway Hills. And that is right here. This one, and it's in Hocking County. The entire airport there is in Hocking County.
There's a chill in the air and I feel something ain't right. That train leaving town's telling me something ain't right. And the home we're all alone, I've waited each night. Looks cold and deserted, and I know something ain't right. The arms that held me never held me tight. And one can't love enough when something ain't right.
Here's a couple of interesting items. Logan once had a grass airstrip located here, south of Front Street, near where Route 33 runs today. And as you can see from this picture, some interesting things took place there. Also, at one time, there was a farm field located along Route 328 between Logan and Union Furnace that was occasionally used as a makeshift airport. Well, I know that we have just scratched the surface on this program about flying in some of the old grass field airports that once existed around southeastern Ohio, and a few that still do. We have also discovered several additional stories while producing this video that we will explore further. But private aviation is alive and well here in southeastern Ohio, with the Ohio University Airport, now located in Albany, Ohio, still busy with flight training and general operations, and with hard surface airports in every southeastern Ohio county except for Washington and Hocking counties. Thank you for joining us here for a look at flying in southeastern Ohio, and we promise there will be more to come.
Fairfield County, Cessna 12 kilos, turning final to 8 Fairfield full stop.
Well, I guess it's only fitting that we end up back here at the end of our tour of India 86, Perry County Airport, at the flag. And you see I've changed hats now. Before I was wearing the Army hat, and that was in honor of a classmate of mine, General Mike Scaparrotti, Curtis Michael Scaparrotti actually, who went on to become Supreme Allied Commander of Allied forces in Europe. And this was in modern times. I'm not that old, but this is a shout out to General Scaparrotti, 4-star. Before that posting, he held the job of Douglas MacArthur, Commander of Forces in the Korean Peninsula. So he's the only general that's ever held both positions of MacArthur and Eisenhower. He's had both the commands. But the reason why I'm wearing the Air Force Auxiliary hat now is because I'm a member of the United States Air Force Auxiliary. You may know it as CAP, or Civil Air Patrol. It is a part of the United States Air Force. It's a civilian component. And also, I want to give a shout out to my nephew, Colonel Adam Bingham, and he is commander of the 6th Aerial Refueling Wing of McGill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. And he has KC-135s, the older tankers, in his wing. And Bing, this shout out is to you and the boss. And I want to thank you guys for being there on the ramparts and watching over our nation and defending it from all comers. And I wish you the very best, and I love you. Take care. Keep them flying.
Funko City is your local source for Funko Pop and anime collectibles. Stop by at their beautiful new home at 26802 US Highway 33, Rockbridge, Ohio, just north of Logan. And you will also find Hocking Hills souvenirs in stock. New items are arriving daily, so stop by often. We'll see you at Funko City. Deputies Auto Repair at 110 North Plains Road in the Plains is ready to serve you with all of your automotive repair needs. Deputies Auto Repair does diagnostic testing, engine swaps, oil changes, alignments, brakes, and tire repairs. And Deputies Auto Repair is now offering additional new services, including 24/7 roadside assistance. They will be there if you need a tow, a jump start, tire repair, or even if you lock your keys in your car. Just call 740-677-0007 and select option 5. They will also fill your tractor tires. Just call for details. Deputies Auto Repair in the Plains.